The other day I saw a video collab by godisgrey and LizziesAnswers, and boy oh boy did it get me thinking. Two Christians, followers of Jesus. Both of them have very different opinions, they have very different perspectives in life, and both of them have very different experiences within Christian churches, as well as views on sexuality. Like, come on, one of them has to be in the correct Christianity, right? One of them has to be the better Christian. That person's not Christian enough. If she thinks this, that means she's so unchristian. Have you ever heard people say those phrases? I'll be honest with you, I was the culprit for saying those things, especially when I was back in my old Catholic community. But there may be people who will disagree on me with this now, in saying that it's actually so unfair to say that someone is not Christian enough or unchristian for the personal journey they are going through towards getting closer to God. And I got myself thinking about that because of that video, LizziesAnswers and God is Grey. Oof, I absolutely loved their collaboration together, where they got together and talked about their perspectives and their personal journeys with Christ. If you have seen LizziesAnswers and God is Grey's collaboration videos, then like this video to let me know. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you know of LizziesAnswers and of God is Grey. And if you don't, then go check them out. Their channels are in the description below. I actually only heard of them last year, and I only found out recently about this collaboration they did together. And this collaboration was only initiated after LizziesAnswers made a rebuttal about God is Grey's perspective on birth control, and that prompted God is Grey to reach out to LizziesAnswers and ask to have a conversation together. And fortunately enough, Lizzie said yes. And the fruits of that yes was this amazing conversation they had that was shared with all of us on YouTube. And let me tell you, their conversation was one of the first conversations between two Christians of different churches and with different perspectives that really reflected so much mercy, so much compassion with one another, so much respect towards one another. And especially on the part of LizziesAnswers, as she listened to God is Grey's personal experience within the churches she had been to, Lizzie never dismissed that experience she had. She never tried to make excuses for the purity culture that affected God is Grey so much. And Lizzie never even put God is Grey down for the views she had on sexual ethics. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because my experience with like majority of Catholics, and even seeing the loudest Christians on social media, so many of them have the tendency of putting down people who are in a different stage in their faith journeys. I also know that there are people out there who are Christian and who do try their best to really reflect God's mercy. So I'm not trying to dismiss those people, okay? I'm just saying that in my experience, I have encountered so many communities in my church that have the tendency of really being so judgmental towards people who are not at the same level in their faith journey. Whenever I saw two Christians with opposing views having a conversation with one another, it usually looked like both of them trying to convince each other of each other's beliefs and views. Usually after the conversation, hearing one of them, at least one of them, say we need to pray for that person's salvation in such a condescending way. And the one that I cringed the most at is when one or both of them are dismissing each other's church experience or knowledge of the faith just because of the lifestyle they are leading. And really, I'm not saying these things because I'm trying to moral signal anyone. I'm saying this because I'm also a culprit for all of that. I used to do that and I still fall into those things sometimes because, you know, let's face it, we're all human. But the video collaboration between LizziesAnswers and godisgrey really got me thinking about this so much. After seeing that video, it really got me thinking that so many of us Christians could be learning so much from these two beautiful women. And specifically, there were 3 things that really stood out to me in their conversation together. Of course, the first one being that they both respected each other so much throughout that conversation. The second was that rather than being judgmental, they were both so curious towards what the other was saying in both each other's experience and also their knowledge of the faith. And the third was that I noticed so many times they would be acknowledging the other's insight, even though it was something that they had never heard of, and they did have things that they disagree on. And I just felt that that conversation, especially the respect they had towards one another, was the biggest reflection of their Christian faith. So many times in my own experience, I found that I would get defensive if there was someone, whether Christian or not, that had an opposing view or an opposing experience that would contradict something that I had learned of the faith or really challenged my own faith experience. And if I may be honest with you, I still do fall into that trap where I get defensive about someone else's views and opinions. And I have seen so many people in the community that I used to go to as well that would be so dismissive, would be so judgmental, but it got me realizing that that is such a huge defense mechanism that we use. Judgment and dismissal of someone else's knowledge or experience is usually a way for us to protect ourselves from a truth or a fact or an idea that may be challenging for us, and that will kind of like really shake our world. And so I really need to ask the question, why do we have such a fear of hearing other people's perspectives and experiences in the faith? Why do we get so defensive? That question really got me thinking about the psychology studies I have been doing for the past few years. And Jean Piaget, if that's how you say it, I can't say French names for the life of me. Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development really stood out to me to explain what happens with this. So in Jean Piaget's theory, he said that beliefs and knowledge are developed through adaptation processes. So one adaptation process is assimilation, where whenever you are faced with new information, you just put it together with the knowledge you already have. And the second adaptation process is accommodation, where if you find that that new information doesn't fit with your current knowledge, then you just have to kind of change your prior knowledge to kind of be able to fuse it all together. And the accommodation process is the part where most of us just fall short on, because it's the process that actually is the most uncomfortable. Because Piaget's view was that within ourselves we need equilibrium, but when we are faced with new information that doesn't fit with our prior knowledge, then that's gonna cause the disequilibrium, and we'll do anything to really get back to that equilibrium. So when we are faced with that sort of disequilibrium, with the new information that doesn't fit with our current knowledge. Assimilation is impossible then, but then accommodation seems like the scariest thing ever, because that means that what you've known to be familiar, what you've known to be safe, what you've known to be reality is being challenged. So I think sometimes, like, the easiest thing for us is to dismiss that new information, to not assimilate it or accommodate it into our own knowledge base. Being challenged in our values, in our beliefs, in our experiences is really difficult. But it's really important for us to learn how to listen to one another with more curiosity, without judgment, with much more respect. And now, after thinking about Piaget's theory and thinking about our own difficulty with accommodating new information, especially when it comes to our faith and our church experiences and knowledge, it's really important for us to really listen to ourselves, to our bodies, to our minds, to really listen to our doubts, to our insecurities, and really notice, observe, and listen to our own defensiveness. Because if that defensiveness is right there, that means that there must be something challenging you. There must be something that is in conflict with what you know, with your experience. And obviously, it needs to be addressed. Maybe some questions have sparked in your mind that you really don't want to think about because it challenges your faith, it challenges your experience. But those questions will need to be answered. So just to finish off this video, I want to really get us thinking about this. No Christian has the same faith journey, the same church experience, the same path to enlightenment as you or I have. No Christian has the same level of understanding or capacity to completely understand the faith. We all have very different faith journeys, we all have very different church experiences and very different levels of capacity to understand the faith. But to be able to really fully know this in ourselves and understand this fact that we don't have the same journeys, that we don't have the same lives and understanding of the faith, we really need to have more conversations with one another, whether we agree or disagree with one another. We really need to listen to each other's stories. And especially if you are someone who has felt dismissed in your experience or in your level of understanding of the faith, I want you to know that where you're at is good and where you're going is good too. The truth is that every single one of us is trying to seek the truth, and that is what matters. And that journey towards truth is not going to look the same as everyone else's. If you have any insights on this topic, or if you have a story to tell, please leave a comment or add me on Instagram and send me a DM, because I would love to hear your story. I would love to hear other people's perspectives on this. And well, if you really liked this video, then please click the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos.